From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the Daily News, Part 1, for December 29th, 2025. These are the stories we are covering at this hour. China's military on Monday dispatched air, navy, and missile units to conduct joint live drills around the islands of Taiwan, which Beijing called a stern warning against separatist and external interference forces. Taiwan said it was placing its forces on alert and called the Chinese government the biggest destroyer of peace. Taiwan's aviation authority said more than 100,000 international air travelers would be affected by flight cancellations or diversions. The drills came after Beijing expressed anger at what could be the largest ever U.S. arms sales to the self-ruled territory, and a statement by Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi saying its military could get involved if China were to take action against Taiwan. China says Taiwan must come under its rule. The Chinese military did not mention the United States and Japan in its statement on Monday, but Beijing's foreign ministry accused the Taiwanese ruling party of trying to seek independence through requesting U.S. support. Taiwan's defense ministry said rapid response exercises were underway with forces on high alert. The Chinese Communist Party's targeted military exercises further confirm its nature as an aggressor and the biggest destroyer of peace, it said. Beijing sends warplanes and Navy vessels toward the island on a near daily basis, and in recent years, it has stepped up the scope and scale of these exercises. Senior Colonel Shi Yi, spokesperson of the Chinese People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command, said the drills would be conducted in the Taiwan Strait and areas to the north, southwest, southeast, and east of the island. She said the activities would focus on sea-air combat readiness patrol, joint seizure of comprehensive superiority, and blockades on key ports. It was also the first large-scale military drill where the command publicly mentioned one goal was all-dimensional deterrence outside the island chain. It's a stern warning against Taiwan independent separatist forces and external interference forces, and it is a legitimate and necessary action to safeguard China's sovereignty and national unity, she said. China and Taiwan have been governed separately since 1949, when a civil war brought the Communist Party to power in Beijing. Defeated Nationalist Party forces fled to Taiwan. The island has operated since then with its own government, though the mainland's government claims it as sovereign territory. Last week, Beijing imposed sanctions against 20 U.S. defense-related companies and 10 executives a week after Washington announced large-scale arms sales to Taiwan valued at more than $10 billion. It still requires approval by the U.S. Congress. Under U.S. federal law in place for many years, Washington is obligated to assist Taipei with its defense, a point that has become increasingly contentious with China. The U.S. and Taiwan had formal diplomatic relations until 1979, when President Jimmy Carter's administration recognized and established relations with Beijing. Asked about the drills, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party has attempted to seek independence by soliciting U.S. support and even risk turning Taiwan into a powder keg and ammunition depot. External forces attempts to use Taiwan to contain China and to arm Taiwan will only embolden the Taiwan independence forces and push the Taiwan Strait towards a dangerous situation of military confrontation and war, he said. Turning to news in Ukraine, President Donald Trump on Sunday insisted Ukraine and Russia are closer than ever before to a peace deal as he hosted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at his Florida resort, but he acknowledged the negotiations are complex and could still break down, leaving the war dragging on for years. The president's statements came after the leaders met for talks following what Trump said was an excellent 2.5-hour phone conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin, whose invasion of Ukraine launched the war nearly 4 years ago. Trump insisted he believed Putin still wants peace, even as Russia launched another round of attacks on Ukraine while Zelenskyy flew to the United States for the latest round of negotiations. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed, Trump said during a late afternoon news conference as he stood with Zelenskyy after their meeting. He repeatedly praised his counterpart as brave. Trump and Zelenskyy both acknowledged thorny issues remain, including whether Russia can keep Ukrainian territory it controls, as well as security guarantees for Ukraine to ensure it's not invaded again in the future. After their discussion, they called a wide group of European leaders, including Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, and the leaders of Finland, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and Poland. Zelenskyy said Trump had agreed to host European leaders again, possibly at the White House, sometime in January. Trump said the meeting could be in Washington or someplace. Zelenskyy thanked Trump for his work. Ukraine is ready for peace, he said. Trump said he followed the meeting with another call to Putin. Earlier Sunday, Putin's foreign affairs advisor, Yuri Ushakov, said the Trump-Putin call was initiated by the United States side and was friendly, benevolent, and businesslike. Ushakov said Trump and Putin agreed to speak again promptly after Trump's meeting with Zelenskyy. But Ushakov added that a bold, responsible political decision is needed from Kyiv on the fiercely contested Donbas region in eastern Ukraine and other matters in dispute for there to be a complete cessation of hostilities. Both leaders identified deciding the future of the Donbas region as a major sticking point. Trump said the parties were inching closer to agreement. That's a very tough issue, but one I think will get resolved, he said. Zelenskyy said, our attitude is very clear. That's why President Trump said this is a very tough question. And of course, we have with Russia different positions on it. Trump said, however, that he still believes Putin is very serious about ending the war, even as Russia continued striking targets in Ukraine as Zelenskyy traveled to the U.S. Trump said, I believe Ukraine has made some very strong attacks also. He held out the possibility that negotiations could still fall apart. In a few weeks, we will know one way or the other, I think, Trump said. We could have something where one item that you're not even thinking about is a big item. It breaks it up. Look, it's been very difficult negotiation, very detailed. Trump and Zelenskyy's sit-down underscored the apparent progress made by Trump's top negotiators in recent weeks as the sides traded draft peace plans to end the fighting. Zelenskyy told reporters Friday that the 20-point draft proposal negotiators have discussed is about 90% ready, echoing a figure and the optimism that U.S. officials conveyed when Trump's chief negotiators met with Zelenskyy in Berlin this month. And in news from Mexico, officials said a train accident in southern Mexico killed at least 13 people and injured dozens, halting traffic along a rail line connecting the Pacific Ocean with the Gulf of Mexico. The Interoceanic Train linking the states of Oaxaca and Veracruz went off the rails Sunday as it passed a curve near the town of Nezanda. The Mexican Navy has informed me that, tragically, 13 people died in the Interoceanic Train accident. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum posted on X, adding that 98 people are injured, 5 of them seriously. She said she instructed the Secretary of the Navy and the Undersecretary of Human Rights of the Ministry of the Interior to travel to the site and personally assist the families. In a message on X Sunday, Oaxaca State Governor Solomon Jara said several government agencies had reached the site of the accident to assist the injured. Officials said that 241 passengers and 9 crew members were on the train when the accident occurred. The Interoceanic Train was inaugurated in 2023 by then-President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The rail service is part of a broader push to boost train travel in southern Mexico and develop infrastructure along the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, a narrow stretch of land between the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. The Mexican government plans to turn the isthmus into a strategic corridor for international trade with ports and rail lines that can connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The Interoceanic Train currently runs from the port of Salina Cruz on the Pacific Ocean to Coatzacoalcos, covering a distance of approximately 180 miles. We're going to take a break. One programming note, our study hours music will resume at its usual time slot beginning this evening at 6:30 until 9. We'll have more news after these messages from our sponsors.